Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by the one and only Michael Cohen. We've got a lot to discuss and a lot of breaking news right before we went live, including Special Counsel Jack Smith filing a powerful motion requesting a January 2nd, 2024 trial date in the federal criminal case just filed against Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. for crimes relating to the 2020 election and the January 6th insurrection. Let's talk about that motion. Also, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis sent a very powerful and frankly very emotional letter, from my perspective, to her staff on the eve of an indictment against Donald Trump in Fulton County, Georgia, as she comes under some of the most heinous and disgusting threats and attacks by Trump and MAGA Republicans. Speaking of threats and attacks, the GOP is now backtracking. I think the better word would be lying, saying that actually, you see, Cohen, they've never accused President Joe Biden of committing any crimes, they now say today, but they still want to impeach him anyway because they believe there's an appearance of corruption. I kid you not, that's what they were putting out on Fox today. Also, the new GOP conspiracy, I don't know if you heard this one, Cohen, is that they say the January 6th committee just destroyed all of the evidence. And that's just 100% false. They didn't. And Special Counsel Jack Smith's actually trying to turn over those records to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is refusing to accept them right now. And Jack Smith calls that out in the most recent motion filed just before we went live. And then, of course, I want to talk about these posts that are being made by Donald Trump in the interview he just gave on Newsmax. It's just really, it's dangerous. It's desperate.
Ben, this is so dangerous and this is so crazy. I think we have to take this one at a time. So let's start with, the Jack Smith. Looks like the trial will be January of 2024. The interesting part about that is that it will occur before even Alvin Bragg's case, which is due to go to trial March of 2024. So the Jack Smith case would be first. And that should shut up a lot of people who want to turn around and start, deciding which case is more relevant, which case is more significant than the other. And I keep trying to say each and every crime is significant, and no one crime should be considered more relevant than another, though I will, of course, and I'm sure you will too, Ben, acknowledge that seditious conspiracy or possession of top secret documents or the dissemination of top secret documents or refusing to return the documents and so is more significant than the hush money payment and the falsification of business records, despite the fact that they are both crimes, and they do have varying different degrees of sentencing. They are still both crimes, and one should not negate the other. That's the position that I take.
I agree with you wholeheartedly there. And to be clear, Special Counsel Jack Smith's motion filed just before we went live is simply requesting that January 2024 trial date. Trump's lawyers will obviously make a counter request where they will probably ask for some date in 2025 or some indefinite time period after the November 2024 election. We put up right there the schedule right there. You see, this is a proposal by Special Counsel Jack Smith for a trial date January 2nd, 2024, jury selection December 11th, 2023, so on and so forth. And it tracks back to the present day. Judge Tanya S. Chutkan still would have to approve this, but I feel like she will probably approve either a January or sometime before the May trial date, where the case in the Southern District of Florida before Judge Eileen Cannon is presently scheduled for. Thankfully, Judge Eileen Cannon's corruption is matched by her stupidity, and ultimately the legal quagmire she is creating there, just already making a mess of the docket. She's sua sponte, it's a Latin term for on her own initiative, asking parties to address issues of grand jury secrecy. Hint, hint, if it's grand jury secrecy, it's secret and they can't be filed on the public docket. So she's creating a host of issues there. She's striking the filings by Jack Smith under seal. But what that's actually led to, and this is why I said, everybody, don't worry, even if Judge Eileen Cannon, because it's actually created an opportunity for a brilliant prosecutor like special counsel Jack Smith. He goes, okay, bet you want to delay this thing and create those issues. Okay, I'll swoop in with my Washington, D.C. case before a law and order judge, before Judge Tanya S. Chutkan. And that case will put Donald Trump in prison for the rest of his life. Thank you very much, Judge Eileen Cannon. And soon I'll go to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeal to try to get you removed, because whether your trial is now May or even in later in 2024 or 2025, he's pretty confident now that he's going to get this case just filed in D.C. in 2024, and I think he'll get it in January. One thing I want to mention also at the outset, which I forgot to mention in the intro, this may be the Michael Cohen emoji day that everybody has asked for. I know a very weird transition there, talking about Cannon's corruption and the law and order judge of Tanya S. Chutkan, to bring up the Michael Cohen emoji, but hey, it's political beatdown right here. We can make up our rules as we go along. So
can we see what that emoji looks
like? If we get 100 memberships,
all
right, 100 memberships,
Deal.
that goes to support this network.
Deal.
We will release the Cohen emoji if there is 100 memberships.
Okay. So with all excellent, it's about time I got an emoji.
Thank you.
So here's the crazy thing. We start to see now Jack Smith with his filed indictment. Any day now, we're going to see another indictment coming down from Georgia. We already have the Alvin Bragg case, right? So we're at 3, soon to be 4, and ultimately, before the end of this year, I suspect that we will be at 5. That'll be with the January 6th insurrection as well. The second Jack Smith indictment will rear its head. And so what does Trump do? Well, what Trump does best. He blows the dog whistle that only his Trumpanzees can hear. These bunch of MAGA idiots that decide that they're going to now act in some way, shape, or form for their Fuhrer. All right. No different than what we saw at the January 6th insurrection when they attacked the Capitol and police officers and so on. And I'm referring to this individual, this guy from Utah that was shot and killed by FBI because he's making threats against Joe Biden, Tish James, Alvin Bragg, Kamala Harris, and a bunch of other people on his, I don't know if it was on Truth Social or Twitter, but it was on his social media platform. And the way that he was saying it gave enough pause to the FBI, and God bless them for monitoring all of this shit day in and day out and keeping all of us as safe as they possibly can. So they're monitoring this. They end up paying the guy a visit. Things don't go well because this guy is clearly unhinged. A firefight breaks out, and he's unfortunately killed. Right? This is the kind of thing that sadly, I think we're going to start seeing with more and more regularity. Again, as these Trumpanzees end up just sitting there in their cage waiting for Donald to blow the whistle to let them out. And this is really scary times, because what is Trump doing? Not only is he blowing the dog whistle, but he's claiming, and it's not like he's doing it behind closed doors. He's doing it right in front of all of our faces. And he's turning around and saying, fuck you, I can do what I want. First Amendment. I mean, forget the fact that they violated, he and Bill Barr and the rest of his sycophantic assholes violated my First Amendment constitutional right, right? But that doesn't matter to him because it's always all about him. How about the fact that they now are claiming that they have a right to do and to say what they want based upon the First Amendment? This is really scary times. And sadly, and I really believe it, we're going to start seeing more and more of these situations, though I don't believe that he has the, we'll call it that he has the energy anymore from like the Oath Keepers or other groups that were involved in the January 6th insurrection, because people like Stuart Rhodes, the head of the organization, is now doing 18 years for what we all know he was doing at the request or for the benefit of Donald J. Trump. And where was Trump to protect him? Where was his legal fees? Where is anything? How's his family sticking around? 18 years. Donald doesn't give a shit. He got out of Stuart Rhodes all that he needed, and he needs no more. So I don't think that the loyalty with those organizations are there any longer. But sadly, and I mean it, sadly, there's still too many people that are in that cult, that dumpster fire cult of Donald J. Trump. And it's so important, again, why we need to continue to build this community, not just so that we could talk about these issues, but more importantly, so that we can actually do something to effectuate a change before it's too late.
Think about it this way. The Department of Justice and the FBI have prosecuted now over 1,000 insurrectionists, from the low-level ones to the top leaders of the terrorist organizations. And the reason the MAGA Republicans want to abolish the FBI, the reason they want to abolish the Department of Justice, is precisely because the DOJ and FBI are prosecuting these terrorists. And the MAGA Republicans are supportive of the terrorists, just like this individual in Utah who identified as a MAGA Trumper. This was an individual who lived in Utah. And let's be clear that this threat to President Biden was very real and an imminent threat. What
And I
happened
read
was,
somewhere, hey, Ben, I read somewhere that he was wearing a camouflage Trump hat.
he was, and Biden flew to Utah on Wednesday ahead of a visit to a Veterans Affairs hospital in Salt Lake City to talk about the PACT Act, something that a lot of MAGA Republicans voted against at first. That's where they were fist bumping each other to try to deprive our veterans of getting the best health care that they deserve. So Biden goes to Utah to talk about veterans, to talk about our troops, to talk about our military, and radicalized by Donald Trump, this MAGA terrorist referenced an assassination and said, quote, "The time is right for a presidential assassination or two. First Joe, then Kamala," he wrote. And these were Facebook posts that he was making. And he posted a number of other threats directed at President Biden. He talked about he's cleaning the dust off of his M24 sniper rifle in advance of Biden arriving. And so that's the type of individual who's radicalized by Trump. That's the type of individual, when MAGA Republicans say free speech, they're talking about trying to protect people like this terrorist from saying things, or allowing him to say these types of threats under the rubric of free speech. And when the FBI arrests an individual like that, they go, "Oh, the FBI is just going after political opponents." No, the FBI is going after terrorists. The FBI is going after criminals, and that's precisely what took place in Utah, Michael Cohen. And that's
But
why
there's a bigger issue here that I think we need to explore with the brigaders. So we all know that right now there are 3 cases, actually 4. You have including the civil case by our unsinkable New York Attorney General Tish James. So there's technically 4 trials that are already set in motion. And what is it that Donald Trump is doing here? Again, blowing this Trumpanzee, whistle that only they can hear, and basically saying things to the public. If you come after me, I'm going to come after you. Now, this is dangerous in and of itself, and Trump knows it's dangerous, which is why he's doing it. So we're already seeing in the press, well, as a result of these threats, and I do believe that Judge Chutkan is going to put a gag order ultimately on him. Can't do it right away. Again, he's the former president. He's now the leading Republican. He's screaming and yelling, First Amendment rights, First Amendment rights. I can say whatever I want. There will come a point in time that they're going to have to put a stop to this. And as a direct result of these threats that he's making on whether it's his Truth Social or anywhere else, you now start to hear that they're providing security, additional security to Jack Smith, to Alvin Bragg, Kamala Harris, to to whoever is involved, the prosecutors, some of the judges. They're all getting police protection. So I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, that's fantastic, right? I mean, it's so important to show that we care about these people that will ultimately hold Donald Trump accountable. But you know who they're missing, Ben? They're missing all the witnesses that have to get up there and testify that don't have security. And I'm not talking about security from the sidewalk when you exit your car to the front door of the courthouse. I mean, these people, how about, the two women from Georgia, right? Who Donald upended their lives. What's going to happen when they have to testify? Ruby Freeman and Shia. What do you think is going to happen to their lives when they have to come in and testify? They've already gotten death threats galore, some of the worst racist rant bullshit that you could imagine. I may have told this to you and to the brigaders before, but I think it's worth repeating. I had a guy who on television turned around and said he was going to put a bullet in my head. And I ultimately turned it over. Authorities ended up tracking him down, and they paid him a little visit, thank God. And I say it again, thank God it didn't go the way that it just went down in Utah. But this Trumpanzee is no different than the other Trumpanzee in Utah, except this guy was from New Jersey. This is not a fucking joke. Our goal as a witness is to ensure accountability to the defendant that the prosecutor and the staff are charging with crimes. So we want to see accountability to all of them. Well, what happens when you, in essence, obstruct justice and witness tamper and you make these latent threats? What you're doing and what Donald is doing, knowing that he's doing this, is he's putting a fear in people's heads to say, hey, look, I don't give a shit. Ask me all you want to come in and to appear, right? You could subpoena me. You can do whatever the hell you want. But unless that there's going to be some form of security or some sort of protection for me that I'm not going to have, like this guy Robertson from Utah with a sniper's rifle or a knife or a bat or something like that, jumping out of the corner, right, and starting to attack you on the streets. There's a real problem here. And that's what the judges need to understand. It's not what Donald says. It's what the people who he's saying it to elect to act on. And those of us that are being brought into the system in order to make the system work, which is called our democracy, what is it affecting and how is it affecting everybody else? And they really need to take this into consideration and ensure that this piece of shit gets gagged and stops doing this before somebody really gets hurt.
The media will do stories about what took place in Utah, right? And the terrorist threats that are taking place across the country. But what they fail to do is do what you just did, Michael Cohen, which is, and this is why people feel gaslit by what they see. They're afraid to connect it to its source. The media would rather just talk about there are conservatives and there are liberals and you got Republicans and you've got Democrats and there's this, both sides are extreme. Democrats are talking about the PACT Act and the CHIPS Act and Social Security and protecting veterans and equality and jobs and working conditions and better pay and all of that. And you may disagree with those and have a civil discussion about the amount, quantity, scope, scale, but that's not all that freaking radical. Right there. Those are the types of issues that we wake up and we think about that affects ourselves, our family members, friends, colleagues, coworkers, and people that we love. The MAGA Republicans have become a full-fledged cult. The Republican Party is no more. They're radicalizing people like ISIS. And then the media is like, oh, well, here is a terrorist in Utah, and that just happened. No, it's happening because of things like this. When Donald Trump is reposting accounts, just think about this. The leader of the Republican Party is reposting accounts like Fruit Snacks, it's called, on his social media platform. That's an actual QAnon account, which talks about arresting the members of the January 6th committee. It says, arrest the crooked January 6th committee. How do I know that Fruit Snacks is a QAnon account? Because it posts QAnon account stuff. It's right there. They post photos of Donald Trump, which he reposts, that has the QAnon, an actual death cult, people. Like an actual death cult. And Donald Trump reposts this, and I think he's reposted close to 600 QAnon messages in the past year alone. He posts things like this from Fruit Snacks. The January 6th will go down in history as the day the government staged a riot to cover up the fact. Repost things like this, a photo of the insurrection from some other account that says, if we don't fix 2020, then what was the point? Showing an image of the insurrection, essentially encouraging another one. And then he posts things like this, Cohen, where it's just delusional, deranged lies and conspiracy theories that are then amplified or created in the first instance by Fox and all of these right-wing propaganda networks that are just all false. And there he is spreading the Ray Epps conspiracy. Here's another one that he writes. He goes, so now that I have full subpoena power because of the freedom of speech sham indictment by crooked Joe Biden, deranged Jack Smith, and the DOJ, it has just been reported that the unselect January 6th committee of political hacks and thugs has illegally destroyed their records and documents. This is unthinkable. And the fake political indictment against me must be immediately withdrawn. The system is rigged and corrupt. Well, where did that come from? Who came up with that? Oh, Tom Fitton, his fake lawyer who's not a real lawyer, from the New York Post and Fox. It is the most ridiculous thing. Like, oh, there are 17 audio recordings of Biden. Then freaking prove it. Then produce the freaking audio recordings. They're making this up. The January 6th committee material is not only available to the public, but special counsel Jack Smith is trying to turn it over as we speak to Donald Trump in discovery. And get this, Cohen, that Donald Trump's lawyers are refusing to even receive the documents while Donald Trump is spreading these conspiracy theories. It talks about how the government's prepared at this moment. This was the motion Jack Smith filed moments before we went on. It says the government is prepared at this moment to produce to the defendant the majority of discovery in this case, including unredacted materials obtained from other governmental entities, including the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol and the United States Secret Service, and that Trump's lawyers are refusing to even accept the documents on an interim basis while they litigate the protective order.
Yeah, they're also claiming that they need to establish a SCIF at Mar-a-Lago, which is a secured area where people can't see the documents. The whole thing is a bunch of bullshit. But Salty, if you have it, here's a little breaking news for you. And it's not real. I mean, it's actually made up, but it's funny as hell because it's true. The Justice Department confirms Trump will be tried as an adult. All right. So this big fucking baby, right, who wants to sit there and who wants to yell, scream, temper tantrum, shit in his diaper, simply because he's afraid. And that's really what's going on. He is scared shitless of what he knows is going to be the outcome, not of just 1, 2, 3, but all of the indictments. He knows for certain that he is going to be held accountable for the actions to which he is being charged. So he's nervous. And by the way, he should be nervous. This is not a joke. I'll tell you, the only thing in his mind that he knows can save him right now from the prosecution and from incarceration, whether it'll be in a facility itself or it will be in a significant home confinement type of an environment. He knows the only way that he avoids this is by winning the election. And that's why for every single case, including this bogus bullshit, retaliatory case that he brought against me in Miami, he wants the deposition to take place, not too dissimilar to this, 90 days post the election. And I'll tell you something, this is going to get really funky because as good a job as Joe Biden is doing, and I want to be clear, I don't agree with everything that the Biden administration is doing, but I have to say that the country is certainly proceeding in a direction much better than it was when we were under a Trump administration. But he doesn't get any of the credit for it. In fact, all you keep hearing about is Hunter Biden, who's not on the ballot. But again, the only thing that's going to stop from facing accountability, which we as brigaders will not allow to happen, the only thing that stops him is if he wins the election. And that's not only is that devastating to our democracy, but we will be living under an autocratic rule for the unforeseeable future. Because once you lose your right, a constitutional right, like what they did with Roe versus Wade as a result of the Dobbs decision, it's going to be nearly impossible to get it back, at least in our lifetime. That's certainly for sure.
I think that the media, by and large, and the pollsters, though, Cohen, I think are missing something that is special going on, And I think they keep missing it, whether it was in the midterms, every time we have one of these kind of referendum votes that come up in the various states, every time we see a special election come up and Democrats are overperforming. I think that people are fed up by the radical extremism of what the Republican Party has become. I mean, just look what's even happened in Ohio, right after MAGA Republicans have been saying, oh, when it comes to abortion, when it comes to a woman's right to control her body, oh, it's just a state issue. Okay, well, in the state of Ohio, they want to put a vote that says that in the Constitution that would say that women can have the right to control their body, and make that right, make Roe v. Wade a constitutional right in the Ohio Constitution. That is a very popular thing supported by the majority of people who live in Ohio. So what do the MAGA Republicans do? Okay, let's change the game right now and let's make it a 60%. Let's require a supermajority. So MAGA Republicans tried to sneak in this thing called Issue 1 that would require a supermajority to make a constitutional amendment to try to stop the people in the state from voting on the right of women to control their body. And that was voted down overwhelmingly. And I think people are fed up with MAGA Republicans trying to take away their freedoms and using government to try to control them.
And what does Donald do? He's going back to the old playbook, witch hunt. He keeps calling everything a witch hunt. Hey, Salty, if you have that thing I sent to you, throw it up here for a quick sec. All right? Because this is what he does. And I want everybody to see this. A federal judge appointed by Trump issued a search warrant at the request of the director of the FBI. Whoa, also appointed by Trump. It was executed by a DOJ attorney, well, not surprisingly, appointed by Trump, who charged him with violating a law that was passed by Trump. There's not a single witness involved who happens to be a Democrat. They are all handpicked, again, by Trump. His lawyers, his employees, their communications, their photos, everything. And then what, of course, does Donald come out? And what are these MAGA, Trumpanzee, sycophantic idiots come out and say? What a Democratic witch hunt. All right. That's all that they know how to do. Witch hunt, witch hunt. Make Donald Trump the victim. Let me be clear, Brigaders. Donald Trump is not a victim. We all are victims. All right. We are victims of a man who sees himself as greater than a citizen. He saw himself as greater than the president of the United States of America. He sees himself as a dictator, an autocrat, a ruler, supreme leader, monarch, Führer, whatever you want to call him, whatever adjective, whatever noun that you want to describe him as. It makes no difference. What he sees himself is above the law. All right. And he's not. How many times do we have to say that democracy is an experiment and it's fragile? And this wackadoodle figured out just what's needed in order to destroy democracy. I can't believe we're even having this type of a conversation. The greatest concept in the history of the world, democracy, is potentially going to be destroyed by a bloviated fucking orange-faced, yellow-haired 300 and something pound Oompa Loompa. I mean, for God's sakes. I mean, the guy's a fucking reality show clown, and that's all that he is. And yet, somewhere along the line, he somehow convinced 74 million Americans to vote for him. And to those of you in the comments that are like, yeah, well, you used to represent him. You voted for him. First of all, I did not in 2020 vote for Donald Trump. I want to be very clear about that one. All right. And in 2016, I never expected that Trump would do the shit that he's doing now. Okay, I worked for him when he was a real estate guy, when he was a branding guy. All right. Yes, there were people that didn't get paid their bills. Okay, I'm sure everybody out there is perfect. And anytime a contractor fucks you over, you pay in full anyway and say, well, it doesn't make a difference. I have to do the right thing. Well, real estate guys in New York certainly don't do that. And Donald is certainly the king of that. But I didn't work for Donald when he was in the White House. I worked for him outside of the White House. All right. And I didn't really do any work for him once he became president at all. So, all of this nonsense, again, it's MAGA, Trumpanzee fools, morons that want to sit there and think that you're protecting a guy against the system. He and Bill Barr and the rest of these guys, like the Jim Jordans of the world, they are the ones that have weaponized the Department of Justice to go against critics. Hence the name of my book, Revenge. This is what Donald Trump does, and he does it better than anybody else. And if we're not careful, and if we don't ensure that we keep promoting, for example, MeidasTouch, so that you can see where we're at and you can follow us continuously. My biggest fear is that the country that we're going to leave, our children, grandchildren, God willing, I live long enough to see great-grandchildren. All right? We're not going to be leaving them the America that we grew up in. And that's a real scary thought. And it's not something that I'm willing to sit with my hands under my ass and then just say, well, it's not going to happen. Democracy will prevail. Bullshit. There's too many stupid people out there that want to follow this cult leader, again, right into the burning dumpster fire of shit.
Cohen, I couldn't agree with you more there. And look, our democracy is on the line. I just, after being gaslit by all these large media networks time and time again, I had enough of it. That's why we created the MeidasTouch network. And I'm proud to announce our new website, MeidasTouch.com, which is just crushing it just because there's no gaslighting. It's unapologetically pro-democracy. And we're just calling balls and strikes and just saying and telling it how it is. That's MeidasTouch.com. By the way, everybody unlocked the Michael Cohen emoji, which can now be used in the chat. The official Michael Cohen emoji is out there. When we come back, I want to talk about what's going on in Fulton County. By next week, I fully expect that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis will be bringing an indictment against Donald Trump for his election crimes in Georgia relating to the 2020 election. I expect it to be a sprawling indictment that would include RICO or racketeering charges. We expect, based on all of the reporting, that there will be dozens of indictments, but Fani Willis is now the target of some of the most heinous and despicable and racist and misogynistic attacks by Donald Trump and MAGA. I want to read this powerful letter that she just sent to her staff. That and more when we come back from this quick break.
If you know me, you know I like to wrap up my day with a tall glass of wine. I'm so excited to introduce you to our next partner, Elia. Elia is a woman-owned, woman-operated wine company run by a member of the Meidas Mighty, Layla Joy Williams. Now, Elia's wine is incredibly flavorful. With a wide variety to choose from reds to whites to whatever you're looking for, Elia has it all. The entire collection is produced in Spain. They pride themselves on a collection that's refreshing, delicious, and yes, flavorful. At an affordable price point, Elia's wine makes for the perfect complement with any dinner, or if you're just lounging around taking the load off a busy workday. Now, I personally tried this wine myself and can without a doubt say that it is incredible. And for whatever reason, if wine isn't your thing, Elia also has an amazing beer collection as well. You can also take pride in knowing that you're shopping with a socially conscious brand, as $1 from each purchase is donated to the Deliver Fund, which is an organization working to circumvent human trafficking. To shop delicious and flavorful wine and beer right now, head to Elia.com and use code TOUCH20 for 20% off your order. That's Elia.com with code TOUCH20 for 20% off your order. Support for Meidas is brought to you by Manscaped, who has the best in men's below-the-waist grooming products. That's right, their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Join over 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code BEAT at manscaped.com. Look, everyone knows that you have to be careful when dealing with the family jewels. You definitely don't want to use an old crusty electric trimmer. Yikes! That's why I'm so excited to partner with Manscaped. Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0 has arrived and oh man, it's a game changer. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker, ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. First off, the Lawnmower 4.0, this trimmer is the future of grooming and dare I say the greatest below-the-waist trimmer ever? Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof and also has 4,000K LED spotlights you'll need for a more precise shave. And because this trimmer is waterproof, you can say goodbye to the mess on the bathroom floor. You thought that was good, but want to take your grooming game to the next level? The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate nose holes. Their Crop Preserver deodorant and Crop Reviver toner will change the way you approach your hygiene routine. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Bring your comfort and boxers to another level. It's time to take care of yourself, so go to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with code BEAT. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code BEAT. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Ben Meiselas and Michael Cohen, the #1 politics news show in all of YouTube in the world. Thanks to you, the Beatdown Brigaders. And we are loving the use of those Michael Cohen emojis. I checked during the break. I see them all there, flooded with Cohen emojis. Thanks for all of our members for unlocking that. And you don't just have to get yourself a membership. You can gift other people memberships as well. We don't have outside investors here at the MeidasTouch Network, so we build the network through memberships and things like that. I want to talk about what's going on in Fulton County, Georgia. We talked about how an indictment against Donald Trump there is imminent. But I want to show you, as the indictment there is increasingly imminent, we believe it's going to take place next week. Donald Trump's attacks against Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, just defaming her, saying the most disgusting, heinous lies, racist, misogynistic, real despicable stuff. And, again, media networks normalize this behavior, but there was once a time not too long ago where a politician who spelled potato wrong or who went Yahoo and did it in a weird way would be disqualifying. But large media networks have gotten bulldozed by this blubbering bully fascist, and that's one of the other reasons we've created MeidasTouch Network, is we're not going to stand for that crap here. Let me show you what Donald Trump said about Fani Willis before reading you this heartfelt letter that she just sent to her staff, which frankly made me tear up a little bit, Cohen, before the show. I'll be able to read it fine now, but when I read it, it was a tough to read but important. Let me show you two recent things that Donald Trump said. And he's been doing this every day, every hour. I'm just going to pick two kind of at random. This is Donald Trump in New Hampshire before a very small crowd at a New Hampshire high school gymnasium. Trump attacking Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis on the eve of an indictment. Play the clip.
They waited, and they waited.
All right.
They waited, and I probably have another one. They say there's a young woman, a young racist in Atlanta. She's a racist. And they say, I guess, that she was after a certain gang, and she ended up having an affair with the head of the gang or a gang member. And this is a person that wants to indict me. She's got a lot of problems, but she wants to indict me to try and run for some other office. What's going on in this country is, and by the way, wants to indict me for a perfect phone call. This was even better than my perfect call with Ukraine.
Cult leader who is in charge of the MAGA Republican Party. I want to show you one other clip right now, though, and then get your response. Then I'll read what Fani Willis wrote to her staff. This is Trump last night on Newsmax, and again, getting a softball question from the interviewer to attack and defame Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. Here, play the clip.
Fani Willis, the prosecutor in Georgia, they're setting up barricades outside the
Terrible.
They're in preparation, obviously, I would assume, for an indictment. What are your thoughts of her? Because there's some discussion that she may have some questionable background. There's some, her father may or may not have been a Black Panther. I think that was discussed. She's had perhaps incorrect relationships with some of the people, some of the gang members that she's also prosecuting right now. Can she give you a fair shake?
No, of course not. Look, I don't think the people of Georgia, where I did very well, and I won it the first time, and I won it, I think, by much more the second time. I can say that about the whole election, too. I don't think they'd stand for it. This woman is not a capable woman. She's a woman that has, and maybe she'll change her mind. And I don't know what she's doing. I really don't know. All I know is she could have done it 2.5 years ago if she was going to do something. And this is about a perfect phone call, a call where I'm questioning the election. I'm telling them that, in my opinion, the election was rigged. And they're saying that I did something incorrect. I didn't do anything wrong. I believe I won that election by many, many votes, many, many hundreds of thousands of votes. That's what I think. And I expressed that on the phone call. And I said, I don't know what the number was, like 11,000 or something. I said, what I need is 11,000 votes. I won this thing by hundreds of thousands of votes. That's my opinion, and it's a strong opinion. And I think it's borne out by the facts, and we'll see that. But she wants to do something on a perfect phone call. This call, I say, was more perfect than my call with Ukraine, which turned out to be a hell of a lot better than people even thought, because I was right about Ukraine. When I said you should look into and take a look at Biden, I called to congratulate Zelensky, nice guy. I call, and I get along great with him. I get along great with Putin, and frankly, I'll have something worked out within literally 24 hours.
I refuse to be gaslit and have people tell me, oh, well, that's conservative. There ain't nothing conservative about that. It is lies. It is defamation. It is disgusting, disgusting behavior with sniffles all in between. Michael Cohen, your response?
I mean, what kind of response could anybody possibly give other than to turn around and to say the whole thing is just a fucking joke? Watching it is a waste of time. I'm not shocked that Newsmax has it. I think it was is that Brett Baer or is that Eric Bolling? It's one
Eric
of the
Bolling.
two. It's Eric Bolling, right? I know both of them, and I know Eric and his wife as well. And I am blown away. I really am. I don't give a flying fuck about your ratings, about the ratings of Newsmax. When you sit there, okay, let's even say, which I doubt it's true, that Fonnie Willis's father was affiliated to the Black Panthers. So what? What the fuck does that have to do with the fact that you tried to steal an election? I mean, it's almost like, yeah. Don't look at me, right? It's like a David Copperfield or a Chris Angel trick. Hey, don't look over here. It's over there, right? This is all deflection. It is stupid. It's nonsensical. Why is he now bringing in her father? This is what he does. He goes after people's family, right? He goes after anybody that he can. And for what? Oh, everything is perfect. His phone call was perfect, right? If your phone call was so perfect and you really thought that you had won the election, what the fuck were you calling Brad Raffensperger for? What are you calling him to tell him? Come on, man. All you got to do is find me 11,780 votes. Sniffle, sniffle. Right? I mean, what the fuck with you? What are you talking about? Look, I'm so tired of everybody on that side of the aisle, right? These Trumpanzees, these MAGA morons. I'm so sick and tired of each and every one of them standing up, defending Donald, allowing him to spew the lies, the hatred, the bullshit, and then they just fucking regurgitate it over and over and over again. And so to them, to all of the Trumpanzees, to the Eric Bollings of the world, right? To all of those that are helping Sean Hannity, that are helping to promote and to continue Donald's big lies, fuck you all. Right? This is a massive 2 fucking fingers salute to all of you. Do you not understand what you are participating in? You are participating in a psychopath who's a fucking known liar, 35,000 plus lies during his 4 years as president of the United States of America to the entire country, to the world. And you are just sitting there and you're assisting him in doing it. And you want to come after, and they want to yell at me for what? For lying to Congress about the number of times that I claim to have spoken to Donald about a failed Trump Tower Moscow project, which he told me to say, along with others, when I said 3 times is what I spoke to him, and the real answer is 10, right? That's the big lie. How is that fucking up your democracy, maggots? How is that fucking up your democracy, you bunch of Trumpanzees? Go back and dumpster dive in a fucking dumpster fire called the cult of Donald Trump. All of you. It's insane. It's insane how stupid that you can be. Get the fuck out of the cult. Get out of the cult right now before democracy is lost.
Look at the attacks on special counsel Jack Smith. He calls Jack Smith deranged, Marxist, communist, right? But when it comes to Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis, when it comes to women and specifically Black women, he has a very different line of attack that is racist, that is misogynistic, and it is very reminiscent, the attack on her that he and Rudy Giuliani did about Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. And in a recent stipulation, although the judge is calling Giuliani out on it, because the stipulation has a ton of caveats. Giuliani admitted and stipulated that his statements that he made against Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, which he did, by the way, in coordination and for the benefit of Donald Trump, were false and defamatory. You may recall this from the January 6th committee, which showed what Rudy Giuliani was saying about Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss when he was spreading lies and Trump was spreading lies, accusing them of being drug dealers and saying they're trafficking votes like they traffic drugs. And it is very reminiscent, if not identical, of the attacks I think you're now seeing on Fani Willis. It is their playbook. That's why we just want to call it out in a very transparent way. Watch what Giuliani does here as presented by the January 6th committee. Play the clip.
Here in the day of Ruby Freeman and Shay Freeman Moss and one other gentleman quite obviously surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they're vials of heroin or cocaine. I mean, it's obvious to anyone who's a criminal investigator or prosecutor they are engaged in surreptitious illegal activity again that day. And that's a week ago, and they're still walking around Georgia lying. They should have been questioned already. Their places of work, their homes should have been searched for evidence of ballots, for evidence of USB ports, for evidence of voter fraud.
That video was from Rudy Giuliani's appearance at a Georgia State Senate hearing.
I want to say this, Cohen, everything, and it's important that I just give this back. Everything that Donald Trump said about Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is 100% false and defamatory. Trump is citing a Rolling Stone article for the proposition that he said, which does not stand for that proposition at all. Fani Willis was representing, I believe, back in her past when she was either a public defender or a criminal defense lawyer, individuals who were accused of committing crimes. And I believe one of those gang members who also is a hip hop artist said that, you know, she was like a role model to him. It was kind of like a relationship between an aunt and a nephew. And so based on the statement of a mentorship, Donald Trump is accusing her of improper sexual relations with gang members, which again is just 100% false and defamatory. And we live in an evidence-based world, and that's what's critical here on Political Beatdown. I don't want to read this whole letter, though, Cohen, but this was a letter that Fani Willis just sent to her staff moments before we went live, and she talked about that Trump would be putting out ads in Atlanta defaming her with those false accusations. And she says, derogatory and false information about me as the district attorney of the Atlanta Judicial Circuit. Apparently, a lot of money was spent to run these ads over the course of 5 days. That means the ad will run quite frequently over the next 5 days. Each of you represent me, especially the ADAs, assistant district attorneys, who all took an oath under my name. We often remind you, if you're an ADA, you are my personal staff and represent me. Many of you are quite kind to me, very protective, and very defensive. If someone attempts to attack me, the office of your colleagues. You may not comment in any way on the ad or any of the negativity that may be expressed against me, your colleagues, this office in coming days, weeks, or months. We have no personal feelings against those we investigate or prosecute, and we should not express any. This is business. It will never be personal. We have a job to do. In this office, we prosecute based on the facts and law. The law is nonpartisan. You should feel no need to defend me. I shared with this office at last Friday's meeting 1/1000th of the negative or derogatory comments I receive. I invited you into an hour of my typical day. I am not concerned with the calls, emails, or ads, and you should not concern yourself with them. This is a reminder that it is against office policy to comment on these matters on social media or any public forum. No employee of this office may make any public comments related to the noise. Your instruction for me is to ignore all the noise and keep doing your job with excellence. Please make it an absolutely phenomenal day and stay safe. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. So powerful.
Hey, Ben,
so powerful.
Ben, do you know that, again, Donald does nothing that is new? It's all out of the Trump playbook. I just sent it to Salty to post up there. You know when else he did the exact same thing? That's right. Newsday. This is against the Central Park Five. He took out an ad about the Central Park Five to bring back the death penalty. And look what we learned years later, right? Based upon information that was released. This is all part of the same sort of play that he thinks that he's going to, effectuate a result based upon posting ads with his name so, that he can get. And again, it's all racist bait. That's all that it. This is so sad. It is so hard to imagine that, Ben, you and I and the multitude of people with us right now, the brigaders, that this is what we're talking about. Instead, we should be trying to figure out as a community how to help Hawaii. Like, my friend Cheyenne, who's with us watching now, or, Steven Tyler or Amy. I have friends that live in Hawaii. I mean, Hawaii is in real serious trouble. Instead, we're not just talking about figuring out how to rebuild like Sanibel Island in Florida or Hawaii as a result of these wildfires. We're talking about saving democracy. I mean, could you imagine what we're talking about? And if Hawaii didn't vote for Donald J. Trump let's say that this was that he had won in 2020, he would send no money. He wouldn't help them at all. They're not my people. This is the way that he talks. This is the way he acts. So unless you're in one of his red states, he doesn't give a shit what happens. I mean, this is not a man who's, forget about being qualified. He's not qualified. He's not competent to walk the streets. Just stay at Mar-a-Lardo. Somehow go away. It's so sad. It's frustrating. It's sad. It's everything. I can't imagine that this is really the way that our country is going to end up. And again, Ben, like you, there's no way I'm going to sit on my hands and allow this to happen. I won't. It's one of the reasons I say this in all of our episodes. I'm really contemplating this move for Congress. Could you imagine if somehow or another this orange-crusted Mandarin Mussolini ends up becoming president and I happen to be a member of Congress? Could you imagine, even if he doesn't become president and I have to now deal with the likes of Jim Jordan and the Ted Cruzes and the Josh Hawleys, the Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boeberts? You're not going to see, me sitting back there and allowing them to continue to spew lies. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. That's okay. Right now it's gray outside. Some people may say, well, it's darker than gray, right? It's charcoal outside. Look, your opinion is your opinion. You're entitled to it, and I recognize and respect your opinion. What I don't recognize, respect, and continue to refuse to permit, which is the same as you, Ben, is the lies. No more innuendo. Facts matter, and that's what needs to be brought to D.C. And I'm telling you, I'm so close, man, you can't even imagine.
I think whether you ultimately decide to run or not, I want to say this, though, is that the platform that you have now, the platform that you've created in many ways, and I know there's a lot of important things that can be accomplished as a member of Congress, but I think the work that you're doing to bring attention to all of these issues right now with the platform that, frankly, nobody gave you at all. In fact, they gave you the opposite that you've created. I don't want you to forget that, because I think people will certainly support you whether you decide to do it or not. But I want you to know, Michael Cohen, that you have a whole community here in the Meidas Mighty who supports you in general. And I guess selfishly, if that would in any way limit your ability to do things with the Meidas Mighty, I selfishly would say, I want you to know that you're doing incredible work, and you may not hear it that often or hear it so directly, but I think it's important, as someone I consider you one of my best friends, that I convey that to you here live in front of millions of people. I'm so proud that you mentioned, or glad that you mentioned Hawaii, because it is so important that that people know there, that our hearts go out to them in the Maui wildfires there. President Biden has said that he will be using every asset that we have will be available to them, while Donald Trump is posting QAnon memes and January 6th insurrection conspiracies. I'm proud that we have a leader who's normal in the White House right now, who is deploying all assets to Florida. 36 people have been reported dead so far, and our hearts go out to everybody there, everyone who's lost loved ones, their homes. We love you. We support you here on the Beatdown community. I want to leave everybody with this note as well, because something interesting happened earlier this morning on Fox, where some of the hosts, not all of them, but some of the hosts really started calling out some of these MAGA Republican lies, because I think even these hosts realize that they're looking stupid. I know for the Jim Jordans and James Comer, stupid is as stupid does, and that's just who they are. They don't care. There is no shame. And I think for a lot of Fox hosts, the same applies. But for people like Ducey and for people, other people who have been saying these things, and then it turns out there's no real whistleblowers, or they're Chinese spies or oligarchs, or the audio recordings don't exist, and this is all made up. I think some of the Fox hosts are even getting pissed. I want to show you what happened earlier this morning on Fox and Friends, when the host Steve Ducey was like, what's the crime here? You've been saying a lot about Biden. What is the crime here? Play this clip.
I've heard the numbers, a lot of the numbers in a broad way from the Republicans. And yesterday they gave us more bank records. But you know what? With all due respect, the Republicans need better investigators, because they've got a lot of circumstantial evidence, but they have not shown that Joe Biden profited personally,
they're doing
or
great.
that he broke any rules.
I vehemently disagree.
It's all circumstantial.
This is
Brian?
so. No, let me finish. This
Let
is
me finish.
But this is funneling right to him at a rapid pace. They've had this job for about 8 months.
What's funneling it at him?
Everything
is money funneling it at him.
Is Joe involved? Is Joe's presence involved in every major business deal that Hunter was involved in? As Andy McCarthy said, Joe was the business. He had the access. Hunter didn't.
So
Hunter
Brian,
didn't have the reputation. It's leading right there.
Brian, what laws did Joe Biden break?
If the American people knew.
Just answer the question. What law did he break?
Number one.
They can't answer the question, and I want to show you I want to show you later in the day on Fox. Here is when a MAGA Republican Congress member was asked by a reporter about, okay, what crime? And the MAGA Republican goes, well, we never said there was a crime. Yes, you did. That's every day you've defamed Joe Biden and said there was a crime. Here, play this clip.
Well, we've never claimed that we have direct money going to the president, but many members of his family have received money from foreign governments. And this is something that is very important for the American people to know. We haven't been at this for 2 years. The House Oversight Committee, we didn't take the majority as Republicans until January of this year. This investigation has been going on now for 8 months, and we have accomplished more in 8 months than it's taken, some entities years to achieve. The banking records speak for themselves. I mean, no one does business like this unless you're up to no good, where you're creating 20 different shell companies, swirling the money around as it comes in from foreign entities, and then transferring out to family members. Here is a family where
can I just follow up with you on a point? Because
we heard something or background.
I want to just follow up with you, sir, on a point you made a moment ago, which is you said we never claimed that any money was funneled directly to the president. That is precisely the claim that the chairman of your committee, James Comer, and also Jim Jordan have made many times on the public record.
We are putting an investigation together.
Oh, good. So you know what? Put an investigation together after you come out with the allegations. That's just genius. I mean, that's exactly the way that government is supposed to work. It's the way, say, the law is supposed to work. So throw him in prison first and then try to figure out what the crime is later. I mean, that's why these guys are all so fucking stupid. And it's scary that these are the people that are in charge of our day-to-day lives. They're the ones that are making, decisions on our behalf. Listen, brigaders, This is why the blue wave is so important in 2024.
Michael Cohen, appreciate you so much, but
Same thing.
also want to let everyone know how much I appreciate the political beatdown brigaders out there. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much. I mean, Cohen and I will always talk about this after we do the show. One, how we look forward to the next show so we could spend this time with you. And sometimes you may see me looking down. I'm looking at the chat because it warms my heart, the love and compassion and intelligence that's in this chat. It is really such a special community that you all created that I am so honored to be a part of. And Michael Cohen, myself, and all of our other contributors will continue to work our hardest each and every day to do this community you all created justice, so you can remain proud to be a part of the Meidas Mighty, to be a beatdown brigader. So thank you so much. MeidasTouch.com is the new homepage for all things MeidasTouch, MeidasTouch.com. We've got some of the best writers. We got the best editor in the game. It is so incredible to see this grow so quickly, already getting more views and more engagement than mostly all large media networks. And we're just,
one of the funny things that Ben and I constantly talk about, because of all of you, the brigaders, and with the success that this show is having on our Tuesday and Thursday, we're actually talking about and trying to make it work, to do it 5 days a week, to be able to bring this to you each and every day, as if it was no different than watching it on a network or on cable news. It's something that we're talking about, something that we're working on, and obviously you guys will all be the first to know. And again, just to parrot what Ben is saying, the love for the beatdown, it's enormous. To be top in the YouTube world is just fantastic, and the hope is that at the end of the day, that our words end up translating into votes, and that blue tsunami just completely engulfs the red we'll call it puddle, right? And we end up bringing our country back and knocking off all of this divisiveness and insanity.
We got a live show this evening that I do with my brothers, the MeidasTouch podcast, at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. So I'll see everybody there. Also, if you can, please support the legal defense fund for Michael Cohen, who was sued for $500 million by Donald Trump in the Southern District of Florida. Cohen's assembled the best lawyers, best litigators, in my opinion, to handle this case. And all of the money will go for the defense fund to help Cohen in that litigation. Specifically, all of the money goes to Cohen's defense lawyers in that case. So you see it right there, the firewallfund.com. Also, there is a link in the description where you can contribute to that defense fund. Check out store.meidastouch.com as well for the best pro-democracy gear, including the official Mea Culpa podcast gear, 100% made in the USA, 100% union made. Gear up at store.meidastouch.com. Don't forget to also check out the other Cohen podcast, the Mea Culpa podcast, also here on the MeidasTouch network. Nothing But the Truth. We'll have the new episode on our YouTube channel on Saturday morning, as always. And of course, we've got some big news that we'll be announcing next week, or the week after that, rather, about Mea Culpa and the MeidasTouch network working together, I think, in bigger ways, which I think will be great, and everyone will be excited about that announcement. We appreciate everybody for hitting the memberships. If you want to you still have time to buy and give people memberships. That's that $sign below on the YouTube page. You can give people memberships. You can ask to receive gifts as memberships, as gifts rather. We don't have outside investors at the MeidasTouch network, so that is the way that we build this grassroots, brick by brick, thanks to the Meidas Mighty community and the Beatdown Brigade community. Also, check out Cohen's book, of course, Revenge, wherever books are sold. wherever audio books are sold. You can get it on both book or audio book. Both are great. That's Revenge by Michael Cohen. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're almost at 1.5 million. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the audio podcast for Political Beatdown, the MeidasTouch podcast, and Legal AF. If you are listening on the audio podcast, go search MeidasTouch and check out our YouTube channel and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And wherever you're watching or listening to this now, go check out MeidasTouch.com. You'll love our new page. Tweet about it, post about it, X about it, Facebook, whatever you use. Spread the message about MeidasTouch.com. Thank you so much, Beatdown Brigaders. Cohen and I love you. We're so grateful for you. We'll see you next time on Political Beatdown. Shout out to the Meidas Mighty.